I wanted to address this topic about the cycle of healing in case someone out there needs to hear this, in case you're feeling so fed up and you're thinking to yourself, when does this stop? When does this healing stuff end? When do I get to be happy? Because as you're working on healing from trauma, and you may have been at this for years or decades, and you're very aware of what your issues are, and at some point, sometimes we can feel frustrated, pissed off, kind of sick of the whole thing, and say, when does it stop? I'm tired of dealing with this. I don't want to look at this pain anymore. I'm tired of being in the pain. I want to be happy. And how can we transition from the pain to happiness? And we may not even know how to be happy because we're so used to the negativity. We're so used to fear. We're so used to being in these dark places. I have asked this question a lot along my journey as well. And it's something that does come up for me now and then. And so what I want to offer is that sometimes as we're working on ourselves, the more that we look at our shadow, the more we find needs to be healed. It's like the older you get, the more you realize how much you don't know. So the process of healing is also, it's really about a process of developing self-awareness. But at the same time, it's also about developing a level of self-acceptance of your shadow side. And we all have one. So you can look at aspects of yourself that you don't like and observe, are you accepting those parts of yourself, or do you judge yourself for having them? And if we judge ourselves, what we're doing is we are once again doing the same stuff that we learned growing up, negative self-talk, low self-esteem, putting ourselves down, not feeling worthy, not feeling deserving, feeling like we have to fix ourselves and be better or perfect, and then we'll be okay and lovable. And that can just suck you down into this dark hole where you feel like you're no good and you don't deserve to live. So notice, are you going into that kind of thinking? Are you going back into the negative stuff? Because you know the negative so well. And I'm not saying that we should suppress the negative and just put a nice coating of positive focus on it, because that won't work. We have to acknowledge that we learned tons of negativity. We learned tons and tons of fear. We learned and saw and lived tons of instability. And that's where we came from. And that may be what we have perpetuated through our lives for a long time. And maybe that's something we're dealing with right now. Can we look at that and exhale for a moment? Just stop. Just pause the negative spiral for a moment. Just interrupt it for a little bit. And can you kind of sit with that? Whether you're actually physically making your body be still, or maybe going out in nature, or doing something that you know brings you happiness. Something to break up that tirade of negative thinking. And can you maybe look at all those things, all those feelings, all those issues from a distance and say, yep, I have that. Yep, I deal with that. I may always be dealing with that. I don't know. But yes, I have that insecurity. Yes, I can be critical. Yes, I can be judgmental. Yes, I got some issues. I have some baggage. I've made some mistakes. I've been hurt. I'm suspicious of others. I don't want to trust others. I don't feel like I'm good enough. And the list goes on. Can you look at all that stuff and say, yeah, that's okay. Yep. That's part of me. That's a part of me. And then inhale. Look at that stuff. And then exhale. Yep. Acceptance. Accepting your shadow. Accepting that darker part. Because we all have one. And you can say, and it's okay if I don't know how to be happy. Because a lot of us, when we come from a background of trauma and negativity, whether it's childhood or for your whole life or any part, we don't know how to relax into happiness and joy. We're so on edge. We're used to running, used to defending, used to protecting ourselves. There's no room for time. There's no time for happiness. There's no time for being joyful, which can feel very, very vulnerable. Just let that be where it is. Bring your attention back to acceptance of where you are without the judgment. The last thing I want to point out that can really help is to focus on finding something in your life, just one thing, that is going right. Something that you do feel grateful to have. Something that, even though everything may feel hard and it may feel like a struggle, but there is one or two things that you can look at that I'm really glad I have the place where I live, or I'm really glad I have my best friend. I'm really glad I have my dog. I'm really glad that I have my partner. I'm really glad that I have this job. Whatever it is. And remember that, because sometimes when we're so focused on the pain, we're focused on, or maybe getting into that negative spiral, we can forget the good things that we have. Actually, one more thing. Can we find, if you're finding that your days are just super, super tough all the time, I'm going to encourage you to try to find one small bright spot in your day, in addition to the gratitude. Can you look for something about yourself, maybe something that you did, that just makes you feel like, hey, if nothing else in my day has gone well, I have done this one thing good and I'm going to feel good about that. Whether it's that you made a really, really awesome dinner, you did an awesome workout, you accomplished something, that you were kind of afraid to do, but something at work, and you faced your fear and you did that. So focus on finding one thing in your day that you can feel good about. And it can be super, super small. It can be super basic. Doesn't matter. But something that makes you feel like, I did that. I am doing something, that makes me feel good about myself. So just some suggestions and thoughts. And I really hope that helps. I understand this all too well. And we can move from all of this fear, negativity, and trauma. We can start to move towards happiness and joy, because that's really who you are. That is your essence. It's not the pain and the trauma. We just have to learn to reconnect with that. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.